It's not just queries that you're going to automate with dynamic SQL. Sometimes there's administrative tasks that you're going to automate with SQL. If you're going through this series, we're not going to assume that you have mastered or have experience in SQL admin tasks. Therefore, we're going to spend about a minute showing you some basic administration tasks. The most common one is backing up the database. You back up your database to a file just in case something goes wrong, and you go grab that file and then restore it. We're going to back up JProCo. Where are we going to back it up to? On the C drive of this system is a Joe's to Pros folder, which is now empty. I hope yours isn't empty. I hope you downloaded all of the folders from the website that's got the practice files. But for easy demonstration, we're going to show you an empty folder called C:\Joe's to Pros. So let's back up the database JProCo to our disk. And let's give it the path of C:\Joe's to Pros. And the database JProCo will put the .bak extension on this file. Run this query. It took almost a second to run, and it says it's successful. Let's look in our Windows Explorer. We got a file that's almost 6 megabytes. Let's say it's the next day, and we want to do nightly backups. Today is the 26th. Yesterday was the 25th. Now we want to back up the 26th, but we're afraid that if we run this backup statement using the exact same file name, we're going to destroy the data from the 25th, and we want a series or history of backups. It's probably a good idea to give this file another name like JProCo26. But if we don't do that and we run this, do we wipe out the old data with this file? See this file that's about 6 megabytes? What's going to happen to it? It didn't give us a warning, and it ran. But now it's almost 12 megabytes. We've stuffed 2 backup sets into one file. Perfectly valid, although kind of confusing. It's probably a better idea to make one backup set for each file having its own file name. Here's a pretty simple statement. We declare a variable, we set the variable, and we show the variable. It shows us exactly what we set. Now, we want to run this as dynamic SQL. So let's make a path, and let's declare a path to be equal to of our char 100, and we're going to set that variable to be equal to the path of C:\Joe's to Pros. It doesn't have anything to do with DB Basics yet, but what if we do this? We're going to add the database name to the path. There we go, C:\DB Basics in the Joe's to Pros folder. Can you see where I'm going with this? Last time, we went to the Joe's to Pros folder and packed up JProCo. This time, we're going to go to the Joe's to Pros folder and back up the DB Basics database. Does this look pretty good? Kinda close. What's it missing? The .bak extension. So let's concatenate that to the end of the path. The results show us C:\Joe's to Pros \dbbasics.bak. Now, remember the statement that worked before? It was our backup database statement. How do we turn that into dynamic SQL? Let's print backup database DB basics to disk equals. To complete this, we need to concatenate the path to the end of this backup statement. In running this, our result shows us backup database to disk equals C:\Joe's to Pros \dbbasics.back. Wow, that looks pretty good. Will this work? To find out, let's copy and paste this result set into the other query window and compare it side by side to the backup statement that we know works. We see this first backup statement ran already, but is the second backup statement that we just pasted in going to run? It's not going to run. You know why? Notice the path isn't a string. How do we get dynamic SQL to embed its own single quotes? You may remember from Volume 1 that 2 single quotes in a row means a regular single quote. And so we'll put that at the beginning of the path, and at the ending of the path, we're going to need another set of single quotes. The results show us our backup database command with single quotes surrounding the path. Now let's copy and paste this text into the other query window and do a comparison. The command we typed out and the command we generated now have the same convention. But instead of printing our dynamic SQL, let's actually run our dynamic SQL. Upon running this code, we can see that it ran. And we can also see our backup file sitting in our Windows Explorer in our file location. This dynamic SQL could be even more flexible. What is meant by that? Well, what if we wanted to back up a different database like dbmovie? We would think we only have to change the db name variable to dbmovie. Now what happens when we run this? Well, it's going to back up the database dbbasics to the disk and call it dbmovie. You see, dbmovie is only changing the path right now. We also want the db name variable to be inside of this path. We're also going to make sure that it works in one command. So let's declare an @command variable as a varchar 100, which will be set to backup database, which is the first portion of our dynamic SQL. And now the middle section that has been hard-coded to dbbasics needs to come from the db name variable. So we will add the db name variable along with the last half of our statement, which is toDisk equals. Now we can simply append the @path variable to the end of this string that creates the command variable. Now this will simplify the calling of the execute statement that just executes the @command variable. And when we run it, we can see in our message window that we backed up dbmovie. And notice, dbmovie is not the exact same size as dbbasics. It's the actual movie backup. Since we've made this statement dynamic, let's continue on with it. It's wonderful. Just backed up dbmovie. We also backed up dbbasics, and a while back we backed up jproco. Well, a whole day has gone by, so it's time to back up jproco again. Let's do that. And check for the file in our Windows Explorer after running it, and we see the jproco.back file is getting bigger. You know what? We would like to stamp our backups with the date it was actually backed up. So let's add an @date variable to the name. So the @date variable will be declared as a varchar 100, and let's say that is 2012 June 01. Let's run this. Okay, it backed it up successfully. In checking in Windows Explorer for the file, we see the file appended with June 1st. If another day goes by, we simply change the @date variable to June 2nd. So what we did was we added a date timestamp, which was formatted as a varchar, and made it part of this whole dynamic SQL. Now whenever we run it, we get the name that was assigned to the variable. Lab 3.3, Skill Check 1. Create a stored procedure called backup database from this code that takes the @dbname parameter and the @date parameter as a varchar 100 field that backs up the database to the C:\Joes to Pros location. When you're done, your screen should resemble the figure you see here.